So Alabama gets their first matchup. Their first matchup was against Robert Morris. And Robert Morris showed to be a much more talented team than I think a lot of people gave them credit for. Robert Morris per KenPom was like 140. I mean, obviously that's not the best matchup for them, but they did show a lot of fight, right? When you see a lot of these teams that have a lower depth amount, right? They're only playing 6, 7 guys. You really worry about them when they play against Alabama, especially when they're not a team that can slow down the tempo, right? St. Mary's had that same thing, but you thought, if they were able to control the pace, maybe 7 guys isn't as big of an issue. With Robert Morris, you immediately feel like this could be a problem, right? Robert Morris really only plays 6 guys in this game, right? They have a 7th guy that comes in because they had 2 guys foul out, but they, played 6 guys for the majority of this game. And to their credit, they looked great. Robert Morris took advantage of Alabama's lackluster performance. Alabama planned to not play Grant Nelson in this game. Grant Nelson hurt his knee in the Florida game. It turned out it was a patella tendon injury, and Alabama was going to sit him for the entire Robert Morris game, as well as, to get him ready for potentially a St. Mary's matchup. It felt like, to me, and it's something that I said to multiple people, it felt like that the team thought that Alabama had it in the bag because Grant Nelson was sitting, right? Alabama had an early lead. They jumped onto Robert Morris pretty early in this game. Started out on a 14-6 score. Then they were up 28-8. And it really looked like Alabama may just run away with it. But then by halftime, it's 40-36. Robert Morris actually takes the lead at one point in this game, goes 65-64. Grant Nelson's put in around that time. Then Alabama goes on an 11-1 run and ends up softening the game away at the end. Alabama, does end up, winning. I wouldn't call it comfortably, but toward the end they did, get out to a lead that you didn't stress toward the very end. But 7-8 minutes to go in this game, and Robert Morris was in the lead. When you talk about these matchups in March Madness, the big thing is that you have to put away the smaller teams late. Because if you give them the opportunity to think they have a chance, the closer it gets, the crowd gets involved. The crowd's going to be cheering on the underdog. The players get to thinking, hey, we really can do this. They come into the game obviously thinking they can win, but when they're up late or very close late, they actually start believing it, not just saying it. So that's something that you kind of have to worry about when you look at March Madness. To Alabama's credit, they were able to kind of finish this game off, but it really exposed a few things with Alabama, and it was something that we knew had to be fixed for the St. Mary's game just due to some of the issues that we saw in this game. First things first, Robert Morris had 16 offensive rebounds. We talk about how good of an offensive rebounding team Alabama is at times. Alabama's out offensive rebounded Texas A&M. They out offensive rebounded Houston, Mississippi State. Plenty of these teams that do a good job at it. But at times this season, Alabama has had issues with this, right? There have been games where they go long stretches and they don't get an offensive rebound, or, they play down to their competition. It's something that's really concerned us at long stretches for this season. It was something that absolutely happened in this game. Alabama gets just 5 offensive rebounds. And Grant Nelson has one of them in his 7 minutes. Robert Morris has, a single guy with 6, another guy with 5. Robert Morris, really their players felt like they wanted it more than us. Clearly, it looked like Robert Morris was locked in and that their players, like I said, truly just wanted it more. Marion Dickinson for them, has 25 points, the Cleveland native. They talked about that a lot. The other thing with Robert Morris, they're only about 2 hours away from Cleveland where this game was played, so they had substantially more fans in attendance. I had a couple of friends that were at the game. They said that the crowd was obviously very pro Robert Morris. That's going to be the case when you're talking about a mid-major, but it was even more prevalent when you hear that Robert Morris is only 2 hours away. So this is, something that a ton of their fans, come over to the game. It just ended up being a game that was much more difficult than Alabama wanted it to be. You did get some good play out of Mouhamed Dioubate in this game. He ends up with 18 and 10. Cliff Omoruyi, was an absolute animal in this game, and that's something we're going to talk about for the St. Mary's game as well. But these two games, it really felt like Alabama's putting a lot of emphasis on the alley-oop and the roll, the strong roll to the basket. Cliff was not used as much in alley-oop during the season. I know Nate talked about it in some press conferences that it was something that they wished that we were getting more of, and it's something that they definitely have put an emphasis on for this tournament. Obviously, a super efficient shot. Cliff does a great job finishing. He goes 8 of 8. Mouhamed Dioubate goes 6 of 8. Both super efficient. Mark Sears does not shoot well from the 3-point line, but does shoot well from the floor. 4 of 7, 11 of 13 from the 3-point line, from the free throw line. Also gets 10 assists, part of that throwing those alley-oops, part of that just, facilitating the offense. So Mark Sears and Mo both get double-doubles in this game. So, ends up being an okay game, but definitely not the start to a tournament that you want. I kind of looked at it as, at least you survive in advance. Maybe it wakes the team up. You really understand, hey, if you lose, you go home. And, hopefully it's going to wake us up for that next matchup, right? That's how I looked at the Robert Morris game. I know some people were much more concerned. Alabama shoots just 28% from the 3-point line. They miss 8 free throws. There were definitely some problems that we had in that game, but I was not super concerned with what I saw in that Robert Morris game. There were definitely some things that I was, wanting to see fixed, but I wouldn't say that they were unfixable. A couple other things, like I said, the big one for me is it really felt like us not starting Grant Nelson, or not planning on not playing Grant Nelson, let's say that, because I fully expect us not to start him. But the idea that he was not going to play in this game at all really almost felt like told the team, hey, we already won this. And that was something that definitely was an issue for me. You hoped that the team would have the maturity that even though he's not going to play, you're still going to play your hardest, even without putting him in. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. When Grant goes in, the team plays to a completely different level. It's very clear how important he was to us as a team. He ends up getting just 5 points, but it was super important, the points that he got. Gets 3 rebounds in the short minutes he's in, and, makes a real difference on the floor. Alabama ends up winning the game, and you survive in advance, and you move on to St. Mary's, and ends up coming back from a double-digit deficit to knock off Vanderbilt.